Good day, everybody, welcome to today's video. Today's video we're going to do rear brakes and rotors on my 2006 F150. To start off, we're going to use very limited tools. 21 mil for the lug nuts, a mallet, pry bar, 10 mil caliper piston pusher tool, 10 mil ratchet wrench, brake caliper pin grease, brake cleaner, some rags. We should be good to go. As a disclaimer, you need to jack up your vehicle, jack it up in a way that's going to be safe. It's not going to roll, chalk your wheels, so that there's no possible way that it can fall on you, because that could cause injury or death. So now we got to remove the caliper, and there's two 10mm bolts right there. So when you pry up on the caliper, there's that little spring there. You just got to push in. You can see I'm pushing it in with my thumb. Put your pry bar in there on the caliper and then pry it out. It comes out. Just kind of rest it somewhere for the time being. Now this is where the fun's gonna be. I had a huge deal of trouble on both sides. I tried tapping the rotor with a hammer first, and my rotors were equipped with jacking bolts, or jacking holes, so I put a couple bolts in there, and I tried to get the rotor off that way, and that was a no-go as well. Got out the PB blaster, soaked it down, I let it sit. And then an air hammer and a lot of beating with a regular hammer, and I was able to get it off. So don't be discouraged if it's not going to come off, because if they're like mine, they're probably seized. And once I got them off, I'm just blowing the parking brake drums out with an air compressor. Now it's time to remove the caliper slide guides, and I just use like a little small pry bar and then use the hammer, tap them out. To install the new ones, I use a rubber mallet just to tap them into place. The slides are put in. Now, I like to clean the rotors with some brake clean before they're installed, because they are sprayed with something so they don't corrode when they're in parts. Now, some people may say you want to back off your emergency brakes or parking brakes to get the rotor off easy, but as you can see right there, the rotor just goes on easy. Now it's time to pry the brake pads off. And this brake pad, I don't know, for whatever reason, gave me a lot of grief. Ended up using a rubber mallet and tapped it out. The other one just came out easy. Now, that is a special tool I got in my hand, and that's going to push the caliper piston in, because if you don't push the caliper piston in, you're not going to be able to get your new brakes on the rotor because the distance is too narrow. So you need to push the piston in. Now this is important. Before you install your new brake pads, you want to inspect your caliper slide pins. Make sure that they can move freely. I'm just doing a quick inspection, and I'm using special brake caliper grease that I put on there just to help lube them up, because you never know, if they seize, then your brakes may end up stuck, or you may have issues with uneven brake wear. So you want to make sure your caliper slide pins are in top shape. Now your brake pads, for the correct orientation, there really is only one way they can go. The caliper piston brake pad has a hump on it, and that hump goes inside the caliper. And then the outside brake pad has the tabs that can only go one way to slide her up into place. As you see right there, I just quickly pushed the caliper piston slide pins back, because when you go to install the caliper, you don't want to catch those slide pins and try to beat it in when the slide pins are interference. You want to make sure those are pushed back and you can get the caliper on without any interference issues. And once you got her lined up, you think everything's good, I use a rubber mallet so I'm not damaging nothing to tap it into place. Now it's time to put your bolts back in and tighten them up, and don't over tighten them because it's very easy to break them. If you don't know what tight is and you try to over tighten it, use a torque wrench. Well, you should actually always use a torque wrench to get the proper torque on it. But that's another story in itself. At this point, everything is tightened up. I'm just doing one last inspection just to make sure that nothing looks funny before I install the tire. And of course, once you put your tire back on, always torque it up to the proper torque specs. Now that the brakes are on, we're not quite done yet. You gotta do the brake break-in. Depending on your vehicle, depending on the brakes, the break-in that I'm doing is drive to 40, hit the brakes really hard, slow down to 0, get back up to 40, hit the brakes really hard, do that 3 times, and then get up to 40, and then slowly down, and then do that 3 times, and then drive around till they cool off. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, post them below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.